Superman. A legend in the world of comics, a symbol of truth and justice, and, let's face it, sometimes he goes up against some of the dumbest villains we've ever seen. After more than 80 years of the Man of Steel, we've dug up some of the worst criminals ever seen in comics. So hey, I'm Nervous Nick for Screw Attack's Top 10 Worst Superman Villains.
Number 10.
Let me tell you about the Emperor of America. While that title sounds pretty impressive, his actual takeover strategy was, lacking. This guy made a device which emitted rays that took away the will of the people to resist him. He blanketed all of America in these rays, and then with just a few henchmen wearing helmets to make him immune to his mind control, marched into the White House and declared himself the Emperor of America. And then everybody was like, okay. Only guess what? The rays didn't work on Superman. So then he just punched the machine to save the day. I mean, if you're gonna take over a world where Superman resides, you had better be pretty sure that your weapons work on him too.
Number 9.
Listen, cancer is everybody's enemy, but for Superman, it's a little different. When Zod had this lady give Superman kryptonite poisoning by kissing him, he ended up with cancerous growths, and after getting them surgically removed, something unexpected happened. Zod stole one of these cancerous growths and, I kid you not, turned it into a monster named Cancer, with a K. To make things even stranger, Cancer thought that Zod and Superman both were its dads. And since it was built on Kryptonian DNA, it gained all the standard powers that the Yellow Sun provides. Cancer's only shown up a few times, once as a serial killer, another time as Zod's pet, but he's on this list solely for the fact that Superman had a literal battle with cancer.
Number 8.
So let me tell you about an awesome Superman villain, Mongul the Elder. This guy once enslaved multiple alien races from across the universe and then forced them to fight gladiator style for his amusement. Now let me tell you about his offspring, Mongul Jr. and Mon-Gal. You get it? Gal, because she's a lady. Anyway, Mon-Gal was built up to be her father's successor because her brother was always just a little behind. She was super strong, super fast, and even went toe-to-toe with Superman. She's made alliances with Darkseid and Maxima, and the Almoratians dubbed her the new Warrior Queen. So, after a battle with Green Lantern and Green Arrow, it came as quite a surprise when Mongul Jr. punched her head off. Yup, that's it. That's the end of Mongul. Just one punch to the head. Done.
Number 7.
It was the early 90s. Superman comic sales were dropping. DC knew they had to do something drastic. DC decided to kill Superman. But they didn't do it by having Lex Luthor finally outwit Superman or anything established like that. Instead, this monster just drops out of the sky and punches him a bunch until he drops dead. This, my dear viewers, is Doomsday. He's pretty much just the Incredible Hulk if he were gray. And the Incredible Hulk actually was gray! Doomsday's whole reason for existence is lame, but it only got worse when they needed an origin story. This is real. I am not making this up. An alien scientist launched this baby out of a cannon, cloned a new one out of the baby goo, and repeated this over and over and over again for 30 years until he finally just got Doomsday as we know him. It's almost as bad as that cave troll Ninja Turtle looking thing we got in Batman vs. Superman.
Number 6.
Have you ever seen the Luke Wilson classic, My Super Ex-Girlfriend? Obsession is basically that. Dana Dearden was a reporter who just wanted to get some super lovin', so after ending up with magic coins that gave her the powers of Zeus, Hercules, Mercury, and Heimdall, she stole Jimmy Olsen's signal watch and used it to lure Superman into her apartment. Yes, this character is a superpowered stalker. Needless to say, Supes wasn't too keen on her and she flipped out. She chased Superman around, called herself Mrs. Superman, and one day when Supes was already having one of the worst days of his life, he came home to find Dana was already waiting for him, having somehow broken into the Fortress of Solitude. I'm sure some of you Superman fans are thinking, but wait, they've already got this kind of character for Superman. She's called Maxima. And you're right. The two even fought once. Obsession is a creepy, redundant stalker who deserves to get killed by demons. Oh yeah, just like that. Perfect.
Number 5.
Hank Henshaw was a scientist who went to space with his wife and crew. Unfortunately, their ship was hit by a solar flare, causing everyone on board to mutate. And you would be correct in saying that this does in fact sound a lot like the Fantastic Four. But unfortunately, the way they mutated was not in the fun Marvel kind of way. One guy was torn apart by metal in his body, another one became radiation and flew into the sun, and then Hank's own body began decaying and his wife started phasing out of existence. In order to save her, Hank bonded with the LexCorp mainframe, whatever that means, but in the end, she just committed suicide. Oh. Logically, the next step was for Hank to bond with Superman's baby crib spaceship thingamajigger, which turned him into Cyborg Superman. That guy. Convinced that his pain was somehow Superman's fault, Hank swore revenge, but Doomsday got to Supes first. This guy cannot catch a break. As a matter of fact, pretty much all he ever does is fail. He failed to kill Superman, he failed at pretending to be Superman, and even fails at dying, because despite his longing for death, he keeps coming back like a budget version of Ultron.
Number 4.
What if I told you that this guy right here was one of the most powerful beings in all the universe? This is Mr. That guy. However you're supposed to pronounce his name, he's an imp from the 5th dimension who has practically limitless reality-bending powers and uses them, basically to troll Superman. Mr. Mixon pops up every 90 days just to cause general mayhem for no reason other than his own amusement. You can make him go away, but only by fulfilling some stupid requirement he sets. And again, that only takes care of the problem for the next 90 days. Like, think about what this means for Superman. He's got so many other problems to solve for so many people, but no, every 3 months, this Looney Tunes wannabe has to show up. Mr. Mixes is as annoying as his name is to pronounce. The only way I can think of to make him more annoying would be to give him the voice of Gilbert Gottfried.
No! Repeat after me, bright boy. It's Mix. Yes. Spit. Lick.
Oh, they did that.
Number 3.
Did you know that our real world actually exists in the DC universe? Yup, it's called Earth Prime, and it's filled with average, ordinary, non-superpowered individuals, including an average, ordinary Clark Kent. One night, Clark went to a Halloween party dressed as Superman. Confused yet? Well, then Halley's Comet flew over, universes ripped open, and suddenly average Clark gained all the powers of fictional Superman. It was also about that time when the fictional Superman actually showed up and said, "Hey, you must be Superboy," and Clark said, "Yeah." So then they flew off and fought evil and rebuilt the universe together. Are you still following this? Well, we can fix that. Superboy Prime wanted to be the one true Superman, so he went crazy, literally punched reality, and went on a killing spree, slaughtering the Supermen of every universe. He was unstoppable because he's a Superman from the Silver Age. You know, back when Superman could destroy galaxies by sneezing. Nobody could stop him. Nobody even stood a chance. Until they pulled Golden Age Grandpa Superman out of retirement. That worked. Superboy Prime is a jumbled confusion of a character. He's so overpowered that he derails every storyline he's a part of. He single-handedly proves that DC's attempt to fix their convoluted multiverse was a failure and continues to be a failure. And you know what? That's probably why they jammed him into the source wall to be forgotten forever.
Number 2.
Some supervillains will do just about anything to make a quick buck, but none of those plans are more unbelievably shocking than that of Sleaze. Sleaze was a new god from the planet Apocalypse, kind of like Darkseid. Except instead of becoming a world-conquering tyrant, Sleaze was an aspiring filmmaker of the adult variety. He was so revolting that Darkseid, villain of villains, kicked him off his own planet of evil. But you will never guess what he did next. He headed to Earth, brainwashed the superhero Big Barda, put her in a dress made of fruit by the foot, and successfully made a porn video with her. And also with him. And then he sold it. Gosh, this character. Sleaze was feeling so good about his disgusting success that he decided to shoot for the stars. He planned to brainwash Superman to have sex with Big Barda. And guess what? He actually did it. I can't believe I'm saying he actually did it. One of Superman's worst villains put him in a porno. Thank God that Big Barda's superpowered husband busted in right before things got messy. But, I feel gross. I'm sure you also feel gross. And all I want to know is who thought that this was a good idea? Superman in a porn shoot? Like, why would you put the Man of Steel, the symbol of truth and justice, in a situation where he almost bangs Mr. Miracle's wife? Like, did they forget that kids read this? Like, oh my lord, just move on to the next number.
It's number 1.
Now, I could tell you about the number 1 villain, but I think the only way to do this one justice is to pass things over to the number 1 Superman fan in the world, Greg Miller.
After the goofy-looking but conceptually awesome fight between Superman and Zod in Superman 2, we all wanted to see Kryptonian combat taken to the next level, and so did Lex Luthor. So he stole some of Superman's hair, he mixed it with his own Luthor DNA, and he shot it into the sun on top of a nuclear missile, because, I'm pretty sure that's how scientists cloned Dolly too. Anyway, the resulting explosion birthed cheap Dolph Lundgren in Party City spandex and a perfectly permed mullet. We called him Nuclear Man. And he fucking sucked. Now, I don't get this guy. I mean, nobody does, of course. At this point, DC Comics had so many awesome villains they could have pulled from. We could have had Brainiac. We could have had the Toy Man would have been better. But instead we get Nuclear Man. And Nuclear Man is lame as shit. I would rather drink my own piss than watch this horrible fight on the moon again. Do you remember this thing? And look at his fabulous nails. His best technique is to scratch Superman with those horrible things. And this somehow ages Superman, it makes him into like a grandmother, it gives him the flu. This movie doesn't make any sense. And the other thing about Nuclear Man, he can only function when he's in direct sunlight. And I mean direct sunlight. If it is a cloudy day, he is going to crumple to the ground and just lay in the streets of Metropolis and never do any. You could beat this guy. Do you have an umbrella right now at home? You've got it. You could beat Nuclear Man right there. So that's the problem. Now, Superman, of course, overthinks this too much. He doesn't do that. That's not how he's gonna take out Super Perm. Instead, he takes him and he drops him into a nuclear reactor. But now, he's getting his power from the radiation of the sun and he's born from nuclear weapons. So wouldn't the nuclear radiation just make Nuclear Man stronger? And why? How? They just cut Superman's hair in the beginning of the movie with garden shears, but it's holding up like a 1-ton weight to show how strong the hair is. And what the fuck is John Cryer doing in this movie?
Thank you guys so very much for watching. If you want to see more Screw Attack Top 10s and Death Battles, you got some options right here on the right side of your screen. But did you know that you can see them before anybody else by becoming a Screw Attack First member? Check out the description below for more information, and we'll see you next time.